Hi. Hey. We are back again. And we are talking about on this Stay and Stay Busy, we're talking about leadership and strengths. So part of this goes into why do you delve into strengths? Why do you categorize yourself as a person and as a leader? I used to be very against this kind of mindset because it seems almost pointless. Okay, you get one task and you do it. You, you look at what the problem is. Looking at yourself is kind of almost a waste of time. But I think this really goes into when you're working alone, just by yourself mostly, it can go into, how are you treating yourself, right? Um, and many times, like if you're a very type A person, you might not be treating yourself well. You might be just trying to get it done, but that's at the expense of other things in your life. So it goes into time management and balancing your overall life commitments, no matter what sort of sphere you're working in and how many people you're working in. But then also, when you get into working in groups or pairs, it also goes into how you are developing a project with someone, how you are going about incorporating their ideas. And it can be really difficult at times. Like, you don't necessarily always have the best partner, the best group. There might be differences of personality, different ideas on how to approach the solution. So, part of being, someone who is trying to succeed in whatever way that means to you is to understand, okay, at the end of the day, no matter your differences, trying to understand how to work with this other person or these other people, right? You can like comment below if there was like a particularly challenging situation for you along this. If you're like, oh, there was this project in seventh grade, or I don't know, like maybe you're working on something and you were on a team and your manager you felt like didn't like you or something. You can comment that below. I know, let's see, a really difficult group for me, it had to be, um, oh yeah, I was working with a grad student and she had a very different idea of how to go about things than pretty much like everyone else on the team. We understood that she was just trying to get things done, but she also she would kind of go about things by, well, she would expect us to know what was going on in her head, so she wouldn't really explain anything, but thought to herself that she was explaining things. And then she would be like, she would start, when she saw us, she would be like, any questions? And so she didn't understand that we didn't understand really anything. We weren't looking for clarification. We were looking for like those incremental like building blocks for what was going on. It was kind of stressful actually. And we would talk about it and try to be like, okay, well, I think this is what's going on. Um, so you can do that. You can work around it. But then there's also like trying to figure out how to tackle the problem, the immediate problem, which is not, trying to collaborate with one another, which you can do to fill in everyone else on what you think is going on. But you could actually, communicate with her. So part of understanding, you know, how to interact with other people is understanding, of course, yourself, your own strategy, how you present yourself. And I think by categorizing your own self, of course, we can change with time, but by categorizing your own self, you can better understand how you should interact with the people that you're working with because you'll be able to understand and better identify, okay, this is the personality actually that I'm seeing in this person. This is how they go about things. And things will start to click. If any of you all have done the Myers Briggs test, it takes forever, but it goes into, it develops you or categorizes you based on four different categories. Um, And so it's usually like an acronym. Like you'll hear people say, I'm an ENT. No, wait. I'm like an ENTP, I think. Um, and you'll be like, what is that? But each one stands for a different thing. I think I changed actually over time, and that's an important thing. See, because you get through the test, and then you realize, wow, like I went through all of this effort to answer all of these questions, and ultimately it will change. I think that's an important aspect to remember about yourself and other people. Your leadership style, your communicative style, that changes over time because we are not static. We have more experiences, we build on them. Um, and that's not to say that it means nothing to do the test in the first place. I think it does mean something because it communicates to you where you're starting off, and then you can grow from there. You can still grow and stay in the same categories, just because you take it again, you're still the same. You fit into those same categories doesn't mean you haven't grown. It's just about understanding where you are currently. Um, so I want to talk about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, because that doesn't necessarily have to do with categorization of leadership. That has to do with categorization of the learning mindset that we're in. So, but I think it's very interrelated. So, in psychology, we define a growth mindset as the mindset of you change over time. Where you're starting out is not in knowledge, in skill set, in whatever. It's not necessarily where you'll end up, right? So this is someone saying to themselves, "Oh, I, you know, I can do better. If I study harder, I'll learn more. I'll do better on the next test. Or if I focus more, if I pay more attention, if I have more time on this job, I will be able to do better. I'll be able to have a better write up." Um, a fixed mindset is, oh, it's basically saying that you are where you will always be at, right? You have a fixed set of skills and knowledge, right? So it's saying, oh, I'm just not good at math. Oh, I can never be an accountant. I'm not that kind of person. Um, in terms of like, I can't handle numbers. Um, Studies have shown actually that people with a fixed mindset are less happy and they're able to learn less things and fewer things. And this makes sense because if you have the attitude, yes, I can, I just stretch my own boundaries. Well, with the growth mindset, that's understanding, okay, this is something that you can build on. Of course, as with everything, um, achieving personal success, as we talked about last week, understanding your own boundaries is important. And so with a growth mindset, it may push you to think, oh, I can do anything. Okay, not necessarily, right? And I think when we're coming at this from the mindset of um, physical disabilities, right? Um, you are not capable of doing certain things, right? So someone who's paraplegic, can they be the best runner in the world? Well, no, that's technically not possible because, you know, but it doesn't mean that they can't be athletically inclined. So it's working with whatever limitation you have or may have, and recognizing in a realistic sense, but also um, a mixture of a realistic and an idealistic sense, what is possible and what you are capable of and where you can go, and understanding that you can go further than where you're currently at. If you're fine with where you're currently at, that's perfectly fine. But knowing that you can do more, and it's not more like numbers wise, it's just more in terms of quality wise. And um, I just wanted to put that out there. So how does this tie into strengths-based leadership? I'll comment this later. It's a link to a Forbes article about strengths-based leadership, but understanding that you as an individual can grow. That's also understanding in terms of your capabilities, in terms of your characteristics, as we talked about with the Myers-Briggs. That is really important for understanding your leadership style, because strengths-based leadership is applying and understanding that people can grow, teams can also grow together. And so being able to survey, evaluate a landscape of peers, whoever they may be, that that is extremely important. And so we break this down into 4 different tactics, right, of strengths-based leadership. First is, so it's ABCD, right? It's great. The first one is align, don't fix. So instead of making someone do something, ask them what they want to do, because they understand where they're currently at, right? And it's sometimes hard. It can be really hard to understand what their strength is and where they fit at. You don't necessarily know what Myers-Briggs they fall into or what skill set they have, even past their characteristics. So letting them take charge and feel in control, that can be really productive and really good for your working relationship, as well as your productivity and efficiency, and overall the happiness of the team. In American culture, we break it down into productivity and efficiency, just because that's what we're expected to do. But thinking about this in terms of happiness too, I think is good. If someone wants to do something, if they're really good at like coding or manning the cash register, why not let them do it? If that's what they want to do, let them take charge. So again, align, don't fix. Another way is ask, don't tell. And so the next one is, so that's A. Then we get to B, build diverse teams. So you want people from different backgrounds, from different mindsets, from different experiences. And don't think about this in the stereotypical ways that we lead conversations on diversity. In that sense, it's always about race and gender. But we know there are many more labels and identities that people can carry, as well as experiences and as I said before, mindsets. So looking for people who represent all ranges of different spectrums, not just one spectrum. Measuring diversity on one level rather than multiple is not going to be productive, because you will have the same types of people, most likely, who fit a cookie cutter mold. And at the end of the day, like, you're not going to be as good of a team. That's just quite frankly what we know. And that doesn't lead to change, right? Everyone's going to contribute as they always have. So making sure that, your team is looking at things in different ways by incorporating new members who are going to add to the overall conversation and the not productivity, but the process of making things in a different way, not just the initial conversations, but the conversations throughout. I think that's really revolutionary. So first we have, I guess, again, ask, don't tell, or also A for, yeah, align, don't fix, otherwise known as ask, don't tell. B, build diverse teams. Then C, create a culture of transparency. This doesn't mean you have to say your entire life story. This is talking about, being vulnerable with your team, whoever your team is, being vulnerable with your team or peers, making sure that they can trust you. It's really hard to assess how this happens, but I know that it's not just about, faking a smile and asking, hi, how's it going? Because that's not a real question. There's a level to it that I think you can't necessarily define in one simple sense. and it's very unique to the relationship. But but trying and reaching out, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to, trust you with whatever is going on in their life. That's not necessarily how this works. It's just making sure everyone feels like they can ask each other, keep each other accountable, and check in, making sure that there isn't a hostile environment, and that there's an environment of trust, I think. So, first we have A, align, don't fix, or ask, don't tell. B, build diverse teams. C, create a culture of transparency. And then we have D, don't manage, empower. So, part of the thing is, once you have a team or peers, um, like partners, you know, you already have that set of people, that set of skills. And so the thing is to not necessarily just delegate tasks and have these remote, very impersonal conversations. It goes past a culture of transparency. It's also trying to lift them up and make sure that they feel enabled to engage with the project, material, work, whatever it is. And so that means that they can, contradict someone else if even if they're at the other end, they have an entirely different perspective. It means like allowing for that kind of environment. It's very difficult to build. It's very different from what we're used to. Many times we just want people to go along with what we're saying or what the other person who seems very knowledgeable is saying, but it can actually build a very strong team, where people feel like they can, discuss civilly, differences of opinion with how to tackle a problem or a task, as well as it could lead to a better product or a better process that enables everyone. So going over it, it's A, align, don't fix. B, build diverse teams. C, create a culture of transparency. D, don't manage, empower. If you could think of, a better ABCD or another acronym that like flows off the top of your tongue better, feel free to comment below. I'm sourcing this from Forbes, so I'm totally plagiarizing, but I'll post it in that in a comment, so don't worry too much. But I think part of the thing is when we're thinking about this is from your perspective, how to go about creating a cohesive team, right? That's as best enabled as possible. It doesn't troubleshoot all the problems that will arise, all the obstacles, but it does look at how do you best engage with people. And I think these are really useful tools. I wish someone had told me about this before. And so looking at kind of the topics as a whole that we've discussed over the past 20 minutes are A, knowing not necessarily yourself. You don't have to understand the fabric of your essence. Many times we boil it down to that, but it's really just understanding how you're perceived, how you work. And so Myers-Briggs, that test, or maybe others, can help a lot with that. I know Myers-Briggs is a tool that has been very much researched in the past and can definitely help with you understanding where you fit into the general different characteristics. But of course, personality psychology is very complicated. I don't understand it. So there may be another tool that better explains things for you. So Myers-Briggs can really help with that. But then also understanding, am I looking at a strength-based personal mindset for myself and my progress as an individual? And that very much factors into working in teams or working by yourself. Because if you carry a fixed mindset for what you're capable of, you may be holding that same fixed mindset for other people too. You know, she she can't do that. She shouldn't be on that project. And that may feed into this strength-based understanding of leadership, where, I mean, the first point is align, don't fix, or ask, don't tell. You may think to yourself, oh, this person is bad at coding, so I'm not going to put them on the coding assignment. I'll just put them on this other assignment. But again, if someone wants to do the coding assignment, let them go at it. If they end up feeling like, maybe I don't belong here, they can figure that out themselves. Um, but if they want to push themselves, let them push themselves. There's probably not too much to lose while doing it, and there can probably be some sort of compromise, like, while you're at it. Again, it varies based on the environment and whether you're in a time crunch. Um, but then it also goes into building diverse teams, right? If you have a fixed mindset of, oh, you know, we only want this sort of person, other people from different backgrounds, like whether academic or experiential or whatever have you, they won't be able to cope in this sort of environment. You don't know that. And that could be really limiting your work environment and what you accomplish as a team or as a person. And it also goes into empowering, right? If you feel like you're managing people, um, it may be because you're holding a fixed mindset of, oh, these people are not self-reliant. They cannot become self-reliant. That may be adding more to your list of things to do. Most likely will. And it also doesn't allow them the space to grow, and become better at whatever they're doing and add on other skill sets of self-managing onto that, and properly exploring their ambitions. And then for C, it goes into, we're going a little out of order. For C, creating a culture of transparency. If you have a fixed mindset, it kind of delves into the idea of not pushing yourself, and that may prevent you from being vulnerable, from creating an environment where people trust each other. Because at that point, like, what's the point of even delving into that area, and kind of trying to gain people's trust, your peers' trust, when, like, people are just in their fixed boxes and they have their certain capabilities that and skill sets that they already have, and they are not going to grow. They are on a fixed path in life. There's no reason to try to really change how much people trust each other. So I think at the end of the day, and you can add your comments below on in terms of what you think is really important, but at the end of the day, what's really important to engage with is your understanding of yourself, your understanding of your capabilities, and where you can go from there. And then also how to interact with your peers, because these are things that we're still learning about. There's an entire field of psychology on this, industrial psychology. I didn't know this until like 2 months ago. And so I think that kind of delves into the idea of, we are all imperfect, but we can still gain skills, we can still learn and find out more about how to better interact with others. And of course, like, having a sense of understanding, because mental health can get in the way. I think that really delves into the idea of building an atmosphere where people feel like they can trust you and that you trust them. Because otherwise, how are you going to be vulnerable when something comes up? And that's something that you really need trust in. So in terms of creating a good, fulfilling, happy space, making sure that there's some level of trust is really essential. And that's the point I would say is most important about strengths-based leadership. But anyhow, Add your thoughts below on what you think is, your favorite point of the ABCD. I'll add the Forbes link below. And I hope you have a good night. Join us at 7 p.m. next Wednesday for the next Stay and Stay Busy. And make sure to register though. Okay, see you guys later.